Hello, I'm a woman in my 30s living in Maryland. Nowadays, it's said that the right age for marriage is out the door. Nevertheless, some elders still worry when women get older. My family was like that too. Now that I'm over 30, whenever there are events big or small in the family, the elders hold on to me and make a big deal as to when I will get married. In truth, my marriage affected Neil in their lives. Just like someone who throws a stone without thinking may kill a living thing, whenever the elders spoke a word about my marriage, it was killing me too. So, at every cousin's wedding, as soon as the ceremony was over, I used to leave as if running away. To be honest, if a woman has the ability to live on her own, I thought it was okay if I didn't get married. Looking back, I rushed to get married because of my nagging surroundings. I felt anxious, asking myself why I couldn't get married when everyone else was. Then a man approached. To be precise, it was my prospective mother-in-law. She was a regular customer of the pharmacy I operated. There was a medical office for internal medicine on the second floor of the building, and my customer was a frequent patient there. She has brought her prescription to our pharmacy since 2 years ago. She looked nice, and whenever she came, she always bought all sorts of expensive vitamin supplements, so she was quite a welcome patron for me. We just met as a pharmacist and patron, but one day, unexpectedly, we got closer. That particular day, I went to a cousin's wedding and opened the pharmacy a little later than usual. Just then, my prospective mother-in-law came. She said that she just stopped by to say hello to me, after she shopped at the supermarket in the basement. But the pharmacy door was locked, so she said she was worried about me. So naturally, I told her that I was at my cousin's wedding and about the story that I ran away without even eating to get away from my relatives who pressured me about getting married. We must have talked about that for about 10 minutes. She apologized for taking up my busy time and left. But soon after, she brought a hamburger for me and said, "You work all day dealing with people and shouldn't skip a meal. I wish I could take you out to a nice restaurant and buy you something delicious. But I can't interfere with running your business. I hope you won't think an old lady is being a nuisance, but you're like my daughter, so please eat. Then I'll go now." I was moved by her warm kindness, treating me as if I was her daughter. After that day, she often came by with food for me at the pharmacy. On a rainy day, she brought hot chicken soup in a thermos bottle, and in the summer, she even brought me homemade lemonade. We were often mistaken for a mother and daughter by others. Several months passed like this. Then, out of the blue, she asked me, "Are you dating anyone? If not, I want to introduce you to a good man. He's a high school math teacher and a good person. He owns a decent condo, and his parents are very liberal, so you won't have to worry about any problems with your in-laws. It's hard to find a kind and hard-working man like him these days. Would you like to meet him?" I didn't have much time to meet men, since I spent most of my days at the pharmacy. But since she was someone who cared for me, I trusted her and decided to go on a blind date. When I arrived at the meeting place, I found out that it was actually her son. Of course, I didn't know that at first. If I had known, I probably wouldn't have gone. He was already there when I arrived. He was tall and handsome, with a stable job and a relaxed demeanor. That was my first impression of him. Even though it was our first meeting, he was very natural and able to create a good atmosphere. Seeing him like that, I felt relieved. In my 20s, I dreamed of passionate love, but as I entered my 30s, I looked for psychological stability in a man. In that sense, this man was perfect. We had a pleasant conversation that day and parted after having dinner together. He asked for another date, and I accepted because I liked him a lot. The next day, his mother came to the pharmacy and asked me how the blind date went. I told her that I liked him and planned to see him more. She was very happy, and I was glad too. I did worry that if the date didn't go well, I might lose a regular customer. But fortunately, it went well, and I didn't have to worry about that anymore. After our blind date, we met on our days off and enjoyed dating. After a while, we even slept together. We were both not young, so we didn't have time for the usual courtship games. We met with marriage in mind, accepting each other's circumstances. Some months passed, and I started thinking that we should introduce each other to our families. One day, his mother came to the pharmacy. She came to the pharmacy and brought some hot snacks for me. But as soon as she opened the food container, the strong smell of food made me nauseous, and I almost threw up. "Aren't you pregnant?" she asked out of the blue. I was so embarrassed by that statement. I just drew a line and said no. Even so, her eyes were subtly expecting something. I didn't know why at that time. That night, I closed the pharmacy and returned home. I took out a pregnancy test and checked. Oh my God, I was pregnant. In an instant, my mind became complicated. No matter how much I wanted to get married, no mother-in-law would be happy about a premarital pregnancy. So I couldn't let on and fretted for days. A few days later, my prospective mother-in-law came to the pharmacy and asked me what was going on. I hesitated, then I confessed to her honestly. "Oh, how great!" she exclaimed when she heard I was pregnant. She became very happy and held my hands. It was a bit over the top. Then she said, "Actually, there's something I haven't told you all this time. Lester is my son. I liked you so much, Sharon, that's why I introduced you to my son. And now I'm getting a grandchild on top of it. Even if I died today, I would have no regrets. A grandchild for our family where we don't have enough children. Thank you for giving me a grandchild." She was all excited with joy, but to be honest, I was shocked. Of course, I knew she was a good person. Still, she hid it from me, introduced her son, and acted as if nothing happened after that. The fact that she came to my pharmacy so innocently made me feel uneasy. It was the same for my boyfriend. So I called Lester out at night and argued, how could a person do that? Even if your mother was like that, you should have told me honestly. How long were you gonna fool me? How can I trust you like this? Baby, I'm so sorry, he pleaded. Actually, I was gonna tell you about it the day we first met, but I was worried that you might not see me for that reason. When I lost my timing to tell you, I didn't have the chance to tell you. My mother was also looking for a chance to tell you and went by the pharmacy often, but instead it caused more misunderstanding. I'm sorry, baby. His words didn't ease my mind, but what could I do? I had already made up my mind to get married, and in my stomach, I had a baby. I couldn't break it off just because they didn't tell me. So I decided to accept the apology for now, and I told my family that I was pregnant. My parents let out a deep sigh. They were worried that no matter how much the world has changed, they didn't think my in-laws would be very happy about an unmarried woman getting pregnant before the wedding. It was the same with me too. Like a joke, these days I conceive the child as a wedding gift. But how could I say that? I would also scorn anyone who got pregnant before getting married, as someone who must have slept around so carelessly. Even though my prospective mother-in-law and I have known each other for a while, and even though she didn't talk openly, how would I know what she thought of me? But all my worries were in vain because of one incident. What? Your mother is going to have a celebration party for my pregnancy? Yes, she is so grateful to you. So she's gonna rent a condo to hold a party. She wanted your parents to attend too, but she thought that would burden you. So she told me to just enjoy ourselves. So contact your friends to come. I will prepare everything, darling. His words brought tears to my eyes. Ever since I found out about my pregnancy, I felt like a sinner. When my prospective mother-in-law was so happy and went out of her way to celebrate my pregnancy, all my hard feelings melted away. I started to think that I was lucky to have good parents-in-law, so I called my friends to the condo with a pool and had a party to celebrate my pregnancy. My friends who were already married envied me very much. Especially my friends who were scorned severely by our in-laws for a premarital pregnancy envied me so much that they had tears in their eyes. When I saw that, I was even more grateful to my mother-in-law. So I was full of happiness and was imagining a rosy future ahead. A few days after the party, Lester came over to my house to meet my parents, and after a while, both sets of parents met. My parents admitted that they were embarrassed that their daughter got pregnant before the wedding. However, my in-laws thanked my parents instead, saying they were very grateful, especially to my mother-in-law. She thanked my parents profusely, saying I should rather thank you. My son is getting on in age, and especially, our family doesn't have many children. So this is tremendously joyful news for our family. We are so grateful that you are allowing your precious daughter to be married into our family. There is no better news than that. And since I've been talking about it, let me make it clear that you don't need to spend any money for this wedding. We just need a daughter-in-law. My son already has a house, and the furniture and appliances are practically new, so she doesn't have to buy anything new. So don't worry about the wedding. I want you to hurry up with it, though. My parents were impressed with what my prospective mother-in-law said. So was I. After the meeting, we set the wedding date right away. We decided to have a small, simple wedding where we just have family members as guests at a famous restaurant. At first, like everyone else, I thought of having it at a wedding hall, but they were all fully booked, and we had to wait for more than 3 months. By that time, my stomach would start to show, so we decided on a small wedding. Then the elders of the family were displeased with it and complained that my parents were sending off their only daughter on such a fast shotgun marriage. Of course, my parents felt that way too, but what could we do? Waiting for the wedding hall, my belly would become pronounced, and people would talk as I entered the walkway at the wedding. So my parents decided to get it over with quickly, even if they received complaints. Because I knew how my parents felt, I was really sorry. But as I was getting married without any burden of wedding costs on my parents, I felt less sorry. My mom told me that even though my mother-in-law said I didn't need to buy anything new, she didn't want to let me live in my newlywed home with used things. So she wanted to visit our place to make a list of things to buy. So we went to my husband's condo. It was a 3,000 square foot condo and had all new appliances, including a TV, refrigerator, and even a dishwasher. Since they were practically all new, just as my mother-in-law said, I didn't need to buy anything. For a single man to live here, I didn't know it would be like this. If anyone saw it, one would think it was the home of a newlywed couple. As my mother looked around our place, she murmured to herself. Actually, I had the same thought. In the end, we decided to get new curtains, bedding, and a set of new dishes. One day, about a week before the wedding, I went to our place early in the morning to move my personal belongings before our wedding. The elevator stopped on the first floor, and I hurriedly ran with the box. When I got on the elevator, a young woman who was already in the elevator was staring at me. But somehow I felt her gaze was uneasy. She asked me which floor I was going to, and because my hands were holding the box, I told her the 17th floor. Then she pressed the 17th floor button. Judging by the fact that she didn't press the other floor button, she seemed to live on the same floor as me, so I said hello first. Oh, I guess you live on the 17th floor too. I live in room 1706. Then the woman trembled her lips, and she let out a sigh. She then asked me in a trembling voice, do you live in room 706? That is my unit. I knew that moment that there was something wrong with my marriage. The elevator arrived on the 17th floor, but we both didn't get off. Then we went down to the first floor again and went toward a coffee shop. When I ordered a glass of milk, the woman groaned lightly. She realized that I was pregnant. You may have realized now, but I'm Lester's wife. We have been married for 2 years. We got separated 3 months ago, but we're still not divorced. Legally, we're married. When I met the woman in the elevator, it was only a guess. But still, when I heard it from her directly, tears came to my eyes first. And I was worried about the baby in my womb. When I wrapped my hands around my belly, the woman looked at me with envy. She was infertile. She said she met her husband when she was a junior in college, teaching as an intern. He was the homeroom teacher of her assigned school where she went as an intern teacher. During her teaching, my husband offered to give her advice and often bought her drinks. And he took her when she was drunk and slept with her. And after a while, she found out she was pregnant. Because they weren't even dating, my husband demanded that she get an abortion. And because she was an intern teacher, she was afraid of getting into trouble, so she received an abortion in an unlicensed backdoor clinic. Even after that, her husband often called her out, and she got pregnant for the second time. Again, my husband was irresponsible to the woman and demanded the same from her, which caused her so much stress that she had a miscarriage. Later, her parents found out about their relationship and went to confront him at his school, and they agreed that he would marry her. After they got married, the woman passed a teacher's examination and got assigned to a middle school. and while they worked as a couple in the same school, she was diagnosed as being infertile. She found that out about 6 months ago, and when she told her mother-in-law about it, she grabbed her hair and cursed at her to get divorced right away. After that day, the threats from her mother-in-law continued, which she tried to endure for several months. However, in the end, she couldn't put up with her abuses any longer, so she left about 3 months ago. At first, she tried to hold on, but her husband persuaded her. My husband told me that he would persuade his mother and ask me to live separately, temporarily, but I never dreamed that he would actually do it. He would betray me like this. How could he act exactly like his mother? If it was 6 months ago, that was about time that she introduced me to her son. Thus, she planned to send away her daughter-in-law and was out hunting for a new daughter-in-law. I happened to become her target. The woman said that she had no intentions to get divorced. At least, she wasn't going to do that until she got her revenge on the people who made her the way she was. After I parted with the woman, I came home and told my parents the truth. My mom collapsed, and my dad also didn't say anything out of shock. The problem was the baby in my womb. If it weren't for the baby, I would have broken off the engagement right away and sued them for marriage fraud. However, I couldn't do that. When my mom regained her consciousness, she told me to go to the hospital right away and get an abortion. I also wanted it, but I just couldn't bring myself to do that. So I asked them to give me some time to rethink things over and went to work. But my prospective husband and his mother were waiting for me in front of the pharmacy. They must have heard something from the woman. The two of them acted as if they were unfairly treated by that woman and started to lie about her. Darling, I'm sorry that I didn't tell you in advance. However, she's already divorced. In truth, we're her victims. She seduced my son to marry her when she was infertile, and after marriage, she blatantly announced that she was infertile. So what could we do? I'm ashamed to see you, but you love Lester, don't you? Besides, you have to think about your baby in your womb. Let's just think you went through a bad omen and just forget it. If you let this pass, we will treat you well for the rest of your life. That's right, honey. I didn't have any affection for her from the beginning. Like my mom said, I was tricked into marrying her, and even then, we are now strangers. You know how much I love you. Please don't waver over her. Let's live happily with our baby together. Please? Those two were struggling to persuade me over to their side and blabbered all kinds of empty sweet talks. They looked like a snake with its tongue out, reaching out in front of their prey. I shuddered at the evilness that I felt like spitting on their faces. Is that right? You're strangers now? Then bring me the divorce judgment papers right now. No. Let's go together to the court to get a copy of it. However, my prospective husband stuttered, saying, "We are divorced, but the paperwork is not finalized." What kind of nonsense is that? How could you say you're divorced, but the paperwork is not finalized? Are you going to continue to lie to me? How could you be so low as a person? How long were you going to lie to me? Hey, are you talking too harshly? Is my son saying something that's not true? She lied to us first and got married. We're the victims. It's her fault for not being able to bear children. Why are you blaming my son? Excuse me, lady. Stop playing the role of a victim. The person who made her infertile was your son. He was the one who got the girl 10 years younger than him pregnant twice before he got married and caused the baby to miscarry, which eventually led to infertility. Lester, if you have a mouth, say it. You are a teacher, yet you took advantage of a college student, got her drunk, and got her pregnant. You even forced her to have an abortion, not just once, but twice. And now, because she's infertile, you're trying to divorce her. Are you a human being? Are you a teacher behaving like that? Lady, you said you wanted a grandchild, right? But I can't have a person who's like a devilish witch like you holding my baby. Especially I won't marry a horrible jerk like him. So don't even dream of holding my baby in your arms. Listen very carefully. You should never become a parent for a person like you. You shouldn't stand in front of students as a teacher either. How could you treat a pregnant woman carrying your baby so irresponsibly and expect to hold a baby in your arms? You crazy jerk. You better wake up. Marriage? You make me laugh. Prepare to go to prison for marriage fraud. Anyway, I'm done with what I want to say, so get out of my pharmacy. Then I pushed them toward the door. Right then, my prospective mother-in-law grabbed my hair and started to shake violently. You bitch. I don't need you, but I have to get my grandchild. Even if I have to have you open your stomach, I will take my grandchild. Lester was shocked at his mother's sudden attack and grabbed her to stop her. However, she was so strong that he was the one who was pushed out from her. I tried with all my might to get her hands off my hair, but I couldn't. Then she eventually threw me onto the floor and I was thrown into a corner. Instantly, blood started to flow down my legs, and as soon as I saw the bleeding, I fainted. When I opened my eyes, I was at the hospital. My mom approached me. She kept caressing my hair and told me that I would be okay. My dad held my hand tightly. Since I saw the bleeding before I fainted, I was sure that I had a miscarriage. However, when the doctor confirmed it, I couldn't stop crying. While running the pharmacy, I had met many pregnant women who went through miscarriages. But when I experienced it myself, nothing could comfort me. I heard that the woman who loses her baby becomes crazy instantly, and I felt as if I would lose my mind. Moreover, I couldn't forgive those who took my baby's life away. After being in the hospital for a few days to become stabilized, I filed a formal complaint of unethical behavior against a teacher who should not be teaching in the school. I attached evidence. Then, Lester called me immediately. When I didn't answer, he sent all kinds of curses via text messages and threatened me to cancel my complaint filing. I captured all of those as evidence and went to see an attorney. After discussing with the attorney, I filed a lawsuit against my prospective mother-in-law for fraud, battery, and manslaughter of my unborn baby. I also sued her son for marriage fraud and threats. While the trial was proceeding, Lester's wife served as a witness, so I was able to win the case very easily. When she found out that I had a miscarriage, it may be that she felt sorry for me, or she wanted to get revenge through me, but I wasn't sure. Anyways, through her I was able to get revenge, so it was good enough for me. When you button up a shirt wrong, then you have to unbutton all the way down. So a wrong meeting ended up with a disaster like this. However, through this experience, I learned one lesson, that you must not be rushed into anything just because of others. Whatever that was, it couldn't bring any good results for oneself. So no matter what or what others say to me, I feel that if I just set my life on the right course, I could live a happy life no matter in whatever form. So I plan to take charge of my life with my own hands. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope that you will take charge of your own life proactively. Please be happy. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comments section. Pressing like and subscribing is a big help to me. Have a wonderful day.